Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show. It is actually a live stream. It's live streaming for Portugal Club members, a little project, a little experiment that we're trying. So the Portugal Club members who are seeing the live stream, especially for you, please say hi if you're catching this morning. As I speak to the Reverend M, let's give her some gumper dust, shall we? Haven't done this for a little while. Bring her onto the screen. We're not messing about this morning. This, as you can see, this episode is called Let's Talk About God. So let's do that. Blessings. Good morning to you, Em. How are you?
I just floated on in there then. On my little
nice.
gumper dust, my little wings going. Yeah,
there's applause and there's gumper dust, and you came in on a cloud of gumper dust this morning. And loved our conversation leading up to this show. No messing this morning. We're going there with the G word, aren't we? We're talking about God this morning.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and Reverend M, you were telling me about what you're involved with your ministry and your training and your behind the scenes education. I don't know where you want to start this morning. I think a little bit of that might be good, to talk about your angle on God before we unfold that.
Bring it in before everyone goes, no, God, run away, because God is triggering, and it can be triggering to anyone who's had to sit and be told, we're preached to about faith in a faithless sermon. We have people telling us, seriously, that monotone voice, you should do this, you should fear that, there is lack, there is limitation, there is this one God who's a guy in the sky who keeps notes, who's watching everyone all at the same time, naughty, nice, a bit like Santa Claus. And apparently this God who sees all, you're going to one day get to these pearly gates, and he's got his like other guy there hanging out at the gates going, all right then.
Like a nightclub.
A bit like a bouncer going, if your name's not down, you're not getting in. And like,
there's another club down the street that you're
going down there, so it's created this heaven and hell system, and let's face it, it's a bit restrictive. This God is a bit restrictive. It's very patriarchal, and I'm not going to go all feminist on you, because it's about bringing balance. Like, there's something I never got about God, and it was like, if there's a God, how can God not love gay people? How come gay people aren't allowed in a church? How come, like, if God loves everyone and forgives everyone, why have you got to beg for your forgiveness? Otherwise you might go to hell. And these things just didn't make sense to me. So what happened was, I started looking at everything else. I was like, I'm not having none of this God stuff. So I dabbled in all sorts of different things. I thought, I'm not touching religion, and I found myself looking at Buddhism. I mean, I even dropped into practicing as a Muslim for a while, and I really had, absolutely. And I found that there was a lot in there that was so very much like Christian stuff in a new language, and I was like, okay, this is weird. And the stories were very similar, and I was learning them in Arabic and then having them translated, and we were going through things like that. So it was like, okay, so I dropped into a bit of paganism and a bit of Wicca, and I thought, this is interesting stuff. So then it was like, I'm going to have a look at these Native American Indians, the indigenous people. They seem to have got a bit of balance. They seem to always be cool and calm and peaceful, apart from what some of the things that they say that is really not true, So we've always got to be questioning what we're told. We always look out and remember that what we're being shown by the outside world is just one part of a story. So my exploration, if you like, went out into the world, and it ended up being like pick and mix. You go to the shop and you're like, I'll have a little bit of that. Doesn't taste so good. Put it down, try something else. Obviously, after you've paid, don't be taking them and eating them before you've paid for them.
It's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am with this, what's left. I'm like, okay, so now I sit with all that resonates. And I recognized the incredible connection in all things that I'd studied, which led me down the metaphysical route, becoming a reverend of metaphysics, which was, I always fancied being ordained, but I thought, what a load of BS. Now, as I grew and evolved, I realized BS also stood for belief systems, and that made perfect sense.
Right, yes.
Exactly. So we've got all these people, all these belief systems, and you can see where they're coming from. Because let's face it, bringing my psychology training, we recognize that everyone's trying the best they can with what they've got at the time.
Yeah.
So back in the olden days, it was okay for people to be looking outside for something to save them. We was looking for something external, some great big powerful force that was coming, and we would be more submissive to the big great powerful force, and then we'd toe the line, shall we say. Well, as we evolve as a human race, we're coming into a state where towing the line doesn't really suit us. We've towed the line, and we're realizing that this guy in the sky that people have obviously made up by taking things like the Bible, and they've basically translated it until to suit the person translating it. When you look at the Aramaic stuff, like, wow, it blows your mind, because the words are very, very different. They're meant, they're said, they're felt in a completely different way. So we're going to come back now to Jesus, and I just want to just share the fact that I've personally, in my personal experience, I found him making a whole lot more sense now. I feel that I recognize what he was on about, because Jesus was a great meditator. And meditation, something that they practice, especially like in Buddhism and Taoism. So things like that, I've also dipped into Taoism as well. And when we come and listen to things and yoga and things, it's all about that meditating, where we just drop into the silence and we just be. And from this amazing space and place that we create for ourselves, we don't need anyone else to do it. We're able to slow the world down and bring on that part of our brain that's about logic and reasoning. So we're going back into psychology now and neuroscience. So we're bringing in the prefrontal cortex. We're leaving the survival brain behind. The survival brain that was relying on something else to save us, the one that was working out of fear, lack, and worry. And we doubted everything, including ourselves. We've got everything telling us that we should doubt ourselves in case we should make some kind of sin. Well, I tell you, one of the big recognitions I had was when I realized that God doesn't do forgiveness. Okay, I'm gonna try and explain to you my God, if that's okay. Because
hold on. So the proposition is God doesn't do forgiveness.
Yeah,
because you've opened up Pandora's box here, and there are a number of things I'd like to come back to. But yeah, carry on. God doesn't do forgiveness.
So God is not a guy. We are made in his form as a frequency.
Okay.
So God, the all power, all presence, is a frequency. It is something that's always there, that's never gone. It's the thing that creator and created. So it's the thing that creates life. It's the life force, life source. Yeah. So it's the thing that is, that everything else comes from. It's the thing that pops those inspirations into our head, so we take inspired action and we can create in the world. It's that thing that brings us back to our senses and allows us to be that beingness, that isness. So we've got this amazing, incredible frequency. Like in Tantra, you find it through the O in the orgasm, that, oh, yeah. And that is God. You also find God. I mean, that is also like the moment of potential creation, isn't it? That orgasm, that going there, where all of a sudden it's like the masculine, the feminine, and the joining together, and then life can be born. It's so beautiful. And we look outside and we see the natural world, and life is just so much there and so present and so blessing us, because it's just there. And like the indigenous people say, it's not about being a part of nature, like part of, like a part from nature. It's being with. Like, as I breathe, the tree breathes the air that I breathe, and I breathe the air the tree breathes. The tree is cleaning the air for me. I am a living life force that's supported by the water that I drink, that nourishes me, that keeps me healthy. I am part water. I am part earth. I am part fire. I am part air, that breath of life that's always continuously flowing. So when we recognize that actually we are it, and that it is coming to and through as us, it just takes us to a different state of realization. One that forgiveness, you don't see them like hanging out and having a forgiveness party out there. You don't see people like the trees and the bees and stuff having, like, they'll have like a word with each other and they'll say something, then they'll go about the day, it's over. There's only us humans that tend to hold on to things like grudges and carry things for a long time, and then it builds up as a story that we're telling ourselves in our head and creates separation and divisiveness in the world. Well, with a love that's beyond all understanding, Jesus Christ and the Bible again, God has a love beyond all understanding. So too do we have this frequency. This amazing frequency does not speak with words. It responds to our language. So our language has a frequency, and what our language gives out, it gives back. It's always giving, always supporting us at the frequency we are. Why do we get plenty to complain about? Because we go complaining. So the more we complain. So back to the forgiveness thing. Forgiveness is this thing where we feel we've done something wrong. Well, I like to ask you to contemplate, how wrong is it? And is there such a thing as right and wrong? Because if there's only balance, then there's only the longer way round. There's only more lessons to be learned. There's only more opportunities to be gained from this experience. So maybe it wasn't wrong at all. Maybe it was just right. And maybe everything's just right. So we don't need forgiveness. The only forgiveness then we tend to need, because nothing outside isn't going to have, nothing outside us, like from that world that's supposed to be separate from us, which obviously clearly isn't, since we're breathing it right now. Like, we don't need something to forgive us. That then brings us to self-forgiveness, because the only person that we're judging, that we're getting on our case, is us.
Yeah.
So then it's down to us. It's not down to another God. It's to us to find our own balance, us to bring back our own reason, us to just meet ourselves with that loving compassion, that loving kindness.
No, I think you do that. I think that's something you practice, from my experience of you. And as I think we opened up with there, this is quite a difficult conversation to have, in the sense that all that's happened since people have been talking about and thinking about God has created quite an unholy mess, you might say. And so it's quite difficult to have these sorts of conversations, which is a shame, because to me, this is the greatest of all conversations. And people might say, hold on a minute, this is Good Morning Portugal, not God Morning Portugal. But to me,
maybe we can do a God Morning Portugal.
You know what? Well, they are. Oh, I think that's what we're doing now. I think that this is indistinguishable, really. Ultimately, there is no difference between God Morning Portugal and Good Morning Portugal. And I'm also aware that it is a very difficult conversation to have. So you lose people quite early on with the words and their feelings about the words. And that's why I persist with this. That's why this seems random. That's why I think it can be a bit awkward and difficult. But that's no reason not to keep trying. And as we can see from the, I think the important thing is the conversation, is to sense that, yes, maybe it is difficult, but we can still have interesting, intelligent, and respectful conversations about this. And I think as well, adding to that, if we don't, that will be injurious. That will be a self-injury to not go here, to not be talking about this in this way, is delaying the inevitable, if you like. And what was really great about our conversation coming up to this, you say here, is scrolling across the screen, there's a huge change. People who've been hiding will be stepping into their truth in a deeper way, more upfront, straight talking. Now, another reason to be talking about this now is it would appear, and I spoke to Jeremy College last night on a Portugal Club special interview. He is a Qigong fanatic, he calls himself, and he went from being a broker in the city, leading quite an interesting life, to discovering Qigong, which he says it saved his life. And now I think that phenomenon, that turnaround, that transformation is happening for more and more people in the breakdown of
cancer with me,
yes,
it's that you'll remember that happening with me,
yes,
and me sharing it through you, through Good Morning Portugal.
yes,
and like my practices, particularly meditation, was why I could be so present, and why I could be so aware, and why I could help everyone else, because I could do it from a more centered place. And that being in a more centered place is what happens when you get God.
yeah,
Because there isn't a God out there, it's in here. And we're talking about coming to the higher power that's actually within ourselves.
yeah.
So through Creative Roots Ministry, which was the ministry that I started up, because as a reverend, and I can't find a ministry out there isn't something that's suitable, because it's all very, even the omnious places, and it's so hard to find within Portugal. I felt called to fill a space to say to people, we're going to be dropping in to discover the light within ourselves through the ministry that is Creative Roots. I'm going to create a ministry which is all about looking at all the different things and bringing it in, so we can find our own truth, so we can always come to the service, come to each other with that amazing curiosity that children have. So a childlike curiosity, and we can ask questions and we can try different things. We're going to be talking about flow on Sunday coming up, so which will be the 4th week of holding the ministry. And through the ministry, I believe it's going to give people an opportunity to come and explore their own belief systems and find what's true for themselves, because the best you can be is you.
This is wonderful, Rev. And this is open to people to come and join you, is it, on the Sundays you speak of? Right.
Absolutely. Live at 9:00 on a Sunday morning on the Creative Roots Ministry on YouTube.
What a lovely service to offer people. And I caught it last Sunday, and you were on fire, I have to say. It was great listening to you. And if I may unpack this a little bit more, in terms of the triggering minefield that is God and the divine and religion and spirituality, and how people seem to be falling out. I mean, literally killing each other over this matter, which is a divine irony, tragedy, isn't it? That the most, what could be the most beautiful experience for human beings, what is the most beautiful experience for human beings, can be used in this way against each other and against ourselves. And that's why, to me, the conversation is vitally important. If we can get past all the triggers and disagreements, we will find ourselves experiencing jointly something wonderful. And I personally, I don't mind any sort of metaphor of men with white beards in the sky and stuff. You know, it's like, if that works for people as their metaphor for the moment, as part of the conversation you're talking about. I mean, basically, we're on a journey, aren't we? And we're swapping notes. Isn't that what ministry is about?
Exactly. So I began being brought up Christian, and I went off and explored things because things didn't feel right.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's about what feels right. I didn't know there was such a thing as intuition back then, but it didn't feel right. And there was people, as there are in all religions, who are trying to take your money off you. And before you'd even got any, there was people saying you need to sell your TV and give the money to the church. And I was like, Mum, they've told me this, and she's like, they're not having the TV. It's not even your TV. What are they going on about? I was
You
like,
ready to sell the telly? You see,
yeah,
this is how
like,
this is how deeply connected you are. You'd have done it, wouldn't you, for the sake of faith and inquiry?
Yeah, because I thought that was how it was. And then it was like, hold on a minute, because it doesn't feel right. And now it feels really wrong that I'm supposed to give away a telly that isn't, sell a telly that wasn't mine. And I mean, it's one thing stopping watching telly, and I can understand why they say that. But shouldn't we have a choice? Shouldn't we? If we're born with free will, as they say in the Bible, then it's our free will. We are free to choose. And
Right.
it's through freedom of choice we get to pick a mix, we get to explore life, that we get to find what resonates, we get to feel into what's right for us, what's true for us, and move forward with our truth, not pushing it on someone else, but saying, this is what I found out so far, let's see what we can do. Through doing that, we're able to bridge that gap in society. We're able to bridge that big divide that says it's us versus them, because there is only us.
Well, it's a lie. It's a lie, isn't it? It's a sad, for some people, the sort of misrepresentation of religious figures. It's as sad as that. It's a tragedy that we see it as us against them, and we fight over the ideas rather than trying to find out what lies behind the ideas. But I guess that's the ongoing inquiry for human beings, and that's perhaps where we are historically, and that's why I have this ticker tape quote running below us there on the screen. Do you think there's something particularly happening at the moment? Is there a collective energy for this conversation, for this inquiry? Is that what you're sensing?
Absolutely. It says in the astrology. Mrs. M could tell us a lot more about this.
Yes.
Because it's and there's something to do with the Kali Yugas. Now we can take it all as with a pinch of salt, but everything's worth contemplating. And it just so happens that collectively, globally, there is more than one belief system that states that right now there's a huge change in the air, and we're moving from one state of being to a new state of being. So regardless of what that place is, whether it's the shamanic prophecies, whether it's the biblical things, whether it's the Kali Yugas, whether it's the astrology, we can just come back to ourselves and say, actually, right now, it makes sense that I can feel a lot of strange things going on. People are starting to ask questions. People are starting to recognize that there's more to our brains and our capacities as there is, like, as we're led to believe, like,
how it seems to be.
realizing the power that we have as a one person and how interconnected we all are, because we forget that. But now the internet's helped us, and with right use of the internet, awesome, but it's made us realize that right now we can talk to each other no matter where we are in the world. We're able to share news, so things aren't able to be hidden, whereas before there was a lot of things that we only knew, that only came into our awareness, which made our world seem so small.
Yes.
So because of our evolution technologically, what we'll find is there is so much more going on around the world. There's 108 conflicts right now, and we only hear about 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, thank goodness in a way, but I get your point. I get your point. And
yeah,
yes, there
the thing
does
is,
seem to
do we
be
want
something
to live in
fundamental.
ignorance? Do we want to live in ignorance, or do we want to keep asking the questions and thinking, well, what can we do? How can we show up? And the best way that we can show up is to learn how to be ourselves, so we can stand in our own truth.
Yes.
Because our power comes from standing in our own truth. It doesn't come from doing what someone tells us to do. Our power doesn't come when we're handing it out to everyone else and everything else around us. Our truth and our power is within us.
Well, what an
And
interesting world it would be if all were in some state of that or other.
yeah,
So there it is. That's how to get in touch with you. Facebook. If you go to Creative Roots Portugal with a Z, you can get a link to the Sunday ministry. And just finally, then, if I could ask you, as a minister, as somebody who's really immersing yourself in this conversation, this process, something you said before about what feels right. Now, the vocabulary can let us down a bit, can't it? Because if we follow our feelings, we might feel angry, and that might lead us a certain way. And I think you're talking about a sort of refined feeling, a sense of rightness, a ring of truth, perhaps, with what occurs to us and what guides us through life. How do we hone that? You use the word intuition as well. How do we
yeah.
hone that for best results to really find out what's true for us?
Let's get technical. We've got our inner sat nav.
Well, go on then.
Our inner sat nav always leads us the right way. So we can be lost somewhere and we'll get this. If we just take a moment to breathe, there'll be something inside us that says which way to go. We'll all have had this moment where we're doing something and we'll have this like inner direction, and inside us will say turn right, or don't touch that, or don't listen to that person, or walk away. We'll be walking down the road and something inside us will say cross over the road, or we'll walk into a room and we'll think, oh blimey, and we're meant to be there because we've been asked, but it doesn't feel right, so we leave. That is our inner GPS. So we've all got it, we've all sensed it, every single one of us. Now, society, obviously, it tries to push us, our intuition down. Now, the intuitive bit is our feminine essence. It's the feminine essence in the masculine, in the feminine. So whether no matter what gender you are, you have this essence, this inner guide. And it's this inner guide that we need to listen to, because it's this inner guide that will never, ever steer you the wrong way. So come back to yourself.
Come back to life, as I like to say. Come back to life, pure life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, another part of that, it would appear to be as simple as that. And it is as simple as that. I know that for sure. And there is something else running in us that's going on, which you talk about, which is the trauma and the healing. So, yes, you may get a message to cross the road or leave a room. There's also something going on in us, which maybe now is a time for addressing as well, which is I don't go into rooms because of something that happened to me before. And that's something else I know that you're able to address with people. The thing that is, on the one hand, we've got inner sat nav, but we've also got, I don't know what you might call it, like pain from the past, unresolved things from the past that impede our enjoyment of life.
This is our condensation.
Condensation.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we have condensation, like there's condensations on the windows right now.
Yes.
And we're not able to see clearly through the window because there's a build-up of condensation. All that happens to us experientially, so everything in our life that's an experience gets stored within our brains as a memory. It doesn't always be stored forefront. It's not always something there, but something will happen outside of ourselves, and our brain is so amazing. Our survival instinct is so vast and so amazing at kicking in. It reminds us that it isn't safe. So we'll be thinking that it isn't safe and we'll not be able to do anything, because it doesn't feel safe. And rather than try anything, we're not in a state where we're able to do it. This is polyvagal theory. So for more info, week 1 ministry, I talked about this in week 1 to help people understand the condensation going on and how to get over it.
Yeah.
So now, like, I'm just putting it in a nutshell for you today. The more we work on ourselves through things like meditation and finding someone like a spiritual counselor, someone who can hold you in non-judgmental space while you explore your truth, the more you can shift, like wipe clear your condensation and return back to clarity.
Yeah, very good. I've not heard that metaphor.
Yeah, clarity is one of the most amazing things that we get through meditation, but there's only so much we can do on our own. So it's really helpful to have someone like a spiritual practitioner.
Yep, and to extend the analogy, if I may, you know, sometimes it's just a simple wipe off the window. Sometimes it's like the double glazing unit, isn't it? Where it's got in between the two panes, and it's a little bit more of a job to take the panes apart, wipe it down and put it back. That might be a retreat or an extended look at some of the things that have condensed from the past. And I think this again, to me, is what's happening at the moment. You know, we do have a sense of like what's possible and the intuition and the vision, the real life, if you like. And then there's what we've brought with us to that point that might impede that view or obscure the view, or as you say, is a condensation on the lens of our lives, which might need a little bit of a wipe from time to time. So there we go. The ministers are at spiritual counselors, the psychotherapists. There are people who are trying to help us at every turn, I think. And again, use your discernment to find out the right people for you. It might be Em at Creative Roots Portugal with her Sunday ministry. All the best with that, Em, and your continued study and your own personal unfoldment, which I know you take absolutely seriously and joyously as well, with your own personal journey. And a last word from you.
Oh, we're not alone. Like, we're never alone. But if you feel alone or you want to connect or you have some questions, come to Creative Roots Portugal, drop me a line. We're not that ready for people to be coming yet in person, but you're certainly welcome for a cup of tea. At some point we will get round to holding workshops and having a much better community centre, but for now, recognize I do have a space for a couple more clients. I do see people because I integrate psychology and the sciences at like neuroscience and things, and I blend that with the spiritual different things, and I'm able to help people find their truth in a new way. And I specialize in grief and trauma, which is why me and Carl have been talking about grief and bereavement and living and dying consciously for the last few years.
Absolutely. And on that note, isn't it great to see these groups emerging? People are dealing with that locally, aging and dying, living, aging and dying, and for me, growing, living, aging and dying, which we'll talk about at another time. And may I extend my invitation as well. If somebody wants to come to the Bay and walk around the Bay and talk, I'm available as well at your service with that. I think these sorts of conversations are so important right now. Great work. Carry on. Keep up the good work. Are you ready to fly out of the studio on a cloud of gumper dust again, Em?
Yeah, why?
Are you ready? All right. Fasten your spiritual safety belt. Here we go. Thanks, Em. Take care. Bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show